The following recording is a production of Kickin' Out at 2 in conjunction with the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network and is intended for private use only. For more information, head on over to facebook.com/Kickin' Out at 2 or our Twitter handle @Kickin' Out 2, along with searching Retromania with a W on any and all podcast platforms available to listen to archive shows such as this and all the great content of the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. Evergreen content at your fingertips anytime at your listening pleasure. And with that being said, we thank you for listening and hope you enjoy the show.
The last time has indeed arrived. It's here. We've reached that point. It's been a long year, but this fateful day has finally arrived as we approach John Cena's final match in WWE, in wrestling in general. Thought I would do a special podcast giving you my thoughts and my reflections on this past year and his retirement tour as we preview his match with Gunther on Saturday night's main event this weekend. We'll get into all of that at some point soon. Let's just get right into it. No cheap plugs. You know where to find us. Retromania, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. Links are up there on the social media. Let's just get into the nuts and bolts of it. This is John Cena. Some say the GOAT. Some say the most polarizing figure in all of sports entertainment / wrestling history. There's so many different phrases and terms that have been coined for John Cena over the years. One that comes to mind for me when we're talking about John Cena, especially within this last year of this retirement run, is unique because he was able to do something that not many people get. I mean, we've seen retirement send-offs before in wrestling. We've seen guys, they throw stipulations, career matches into the retirements. Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. Ric Flair had a great send-off years ago. Terry Funk made his career off of retirement tours, or retirement angles, if you will. He retired so many times, I can't even keep count. But anyhow, this is so unique because you don't get this opportunity for someone to say goodbye over the course of a year. And, when I was trying to encapsulate a word or a phrase when it comes to this retirement tour, there's a couple that come to mind, unique being the first one, because you don't see this every day. The other word that keeps popping in my head when it comes to this is fun. It looked like for those 36 dates, John Cena was having fun. Now, he was working his ass off to play a character each and every time and to play his role to the standard that was set, but he looked like he was having a lot of fun doing it. And whether it was, him being a bad guy, and we'll get into that, or just, his normal, typical good guy John Cena shtick, or anything that he was involved in, it looked like he was having fun. And I think that's the most important thing. If he was having fun and the audience had fun, now I'm not going to talk about that portion of the audience. They're going to criticize some of this run. And rightfully so. I'll get into all that shortly because I have my thoughts on some things that took place during this run as well. But unique and fun seem to be what sticks with me when it comes to this retirement run with John Cena. And I'm going to get into all of that. I'm going to talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, what I expected, what I didn't expect, my hopes, my wish list for the retirement, and so on and so forth as we get through this. And then, we'll lead to the preview of the match with Gunther at Saturday night's main event, as well as the rest of the Saturday night's main event card. So let's kick things off here. Let's talk about his first appearance on Netflix, the Netflix debut. He declared his entry into the Royal Rumble, and it was very emphatic. And this was kind of what I expected from Cena, and I liked it for the most part. He knew that it was his last year, his last chance to go to WrestleMania, compete in the main event, and then he guaranteed he was going to win the Royal Rumble to do that. And I liked that. Like I said, it was kind of what I expected from him. And he did that pretty well. And then we get to the Royal Rumble, and what I really liked about his involvement in the Rumble, because I had him picked to win it. It was either him or Punk I thought was winning it. And what I really liked about this was that this was part of what eventually we're going to see come this weekend in terms of giving back. He gave back by helping elevate Jey Uso, who won the Royal Rumble. Uso eliminating Cena to win the Royal Rumble match and to go on for a championship match at WrestleMania. I thought it was well done. I thought it was a tip, a nice feather in the cap for Jey Uso to say that he eliminated John Cena, the last guy, to get his opportunity to main event. And regardless of what you think about Jey Uso, regardless of what you think about his booking and how he's been presented in the last year, nobody saw that one coming. Okay? Nobody did. All right? Cena, Roman, Rollins, Punk, those were the heavy favorites for that Rumble match. Jey Uso was further down the ladder, I guess you could say, when it comes to favorites for that Rumble match. And for him to eliminate someone like Cena was a nice little notch on his belt, really getting him primed for a marquee spot at WrestleMania. Even though it wasn't the main event, he opened against Gunther. It was still an important part of the show that weekend. And so Cena parlayed that into, which was something that, in hindsight, I could see why he did this, but at the time, it didn't really register with me. But when he declared his entry into the Elimination Chamber to get an opportunity at the other World Championship, I thought it was interesting. But I didn't look too far down from it. I just thought, you know what, this is his retirement tour. He's kind of, pulling his stroke card. He's showing everybody, why he's the man. And it was interesting how he just kind of declared, after 23 years with this company, I feel I've earned the right to say that I'm going to compete in the Elimination Chamber for the heavy, for a shot at the Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. And Triple H and management, they kind of obliged. And it was a nice touch, and it also created a dynamic with the other individuals involved in the match. Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Damian Priest, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, that, Cena is seen as a target. Everyone else had to earn their way into the match. He did not. He did not compete in a qualifying match to get that opportunity. Now, let's move on to the Chamber and Cena's involvement with Punk. Just some really fun stuff. And the finish where he capitalized on Rollins' interference and defeated CM Punk to earn his opportunity at the WWE Championship, which was held at that time by Cody Rhodes. Now, once we saw Cody come out and, the whole deal where he, had to give Rock his answer if he was going to sell his soul, and then The Rock came out with Travis Scott, I didn't know what to think. Now, earlier that weekend, there was a report on the dirt sheets that one or the other, meaning John Cena or Cody Rhodes, was going to be the heel going into WrestleMania, their match at WrestleMania. Now, I wasn't really a big proponent of that when I read it, because I thought, there's so much meat on the bone with Cena being, the hero, and Cody Rhodes kind of patterning and modeling himself after him. Cody being the next guy to kind of take that throne from Cena when Cena leaves. And I thought there was enough meat on the bone where they could have done babyface versus babyface at WrestleMania. And then the turn took place. Cena hugged Cody. The camera panned into his face. He looked at Rock. Rock did the throat slash signal. Cena pulled back. Nut shot. Shocked the whole world. Shocked the whole world. Okay? Go back in the archives. Myself, this podcast, conducted an emergency podcast. Took a page out of Sam Roberts' book. Thank you very much. And shared my thoughts on the heel turn and what that could mean moving forward. And there were a lot of things about that podcast that I felt needed to happen to cement this turn. And the follow-through, it was hit or miss for me. I mean, the turn itself was great. You know, we can talk greatest heel turns of all time. We can talk greatest babyface turns of all time. And a lot of people's criteria is different. Some people might try to implement the body of work following that turn as to whether it was a great heel turn or not. Some people might just use the turn itself. I stand by it that Hogan at Bash at the Beach, and I said it on that emergency podcast, I'll say it again, Hogan at Bash at the Beach was the greatest heel turn of all time. But I do think, still to this day, the turn itself, just at the Elimination Chamber, John Cena aligning with The Rock and turning on Cody Rhodes and setting the stage for their WrestleMania match, is the second greatest heel turn in the history of the wrestling business. Okay? Now, I wouldn't say nobody saw it coming, but a lot of people didn't see it coming. It was a viral moment. It was huge. I mean, it made mainstream media. ESPN covered it. It was wild, the buzz that it created on social media and on all platforms. I mean, it's become a meme. It's become a GIF, a reel, a TikTok. I mean, it was huge. And I said it on that podcast, and I'll say it now. I give credit to the company and to Cena for daring to do something different on his way out the door. He could have played the safe route, and he could have just, been good guy John Cena, kissing babies, shaking hands, being the hero. And people would have been fine with that. But he took a different route. And he created some buzz going into WrestleMania because of the turn. I think what slowed that buzz down was the follow-up, the approach. Cena and Cody had a series of back-and-forth verbal jousts on Monday Night Raw, I think on SmackDown as well. And I didn't think that the follow-through, it wasn't as strong as the turn, okay? First off, I stand by this, and I'll say it again. I think Cena needed to adopt a brand new look. He came out first night with the T-shirt and the shorts and the jorts and the baseball hat, and he ripped on the fans. I loved his explanation that the people did this to him. He blamed the fans. He blamed the audience. But there was no explanation as to why he chose to align with The Rock. And I felt like the back and forth with him and Cody was very redundant. And it was a lot about, Cody doubting himself and if he had that killer instinct and, maybe, Cody's going to end up like he has. And maybe Cody will end up doing this someday. It wasn't bad, but they just I felt like they repeated that formula. Cody dropping Cena a couple times, knocking him on his ass. It didn't resonate with me. And then as the weeks go on, and this is maybe my fault and a lot of fans' fault for trying to be the ones to get the scoop, but all I was reading was that The Rock is going to make an appearance at some point. The Rock is going to make an appearance at some point. The Rock will show up on TV to set up his inclusion in the match. I should have known from the get-go that when he wasn't involved in the WrestleMania graphics, in the renders, when they were previewing the Cena-Cody match, that it wasn't happening. I should have known that. But I held out hope that his appearance was going to be a surprise. I believe at one point he was over in Europe during that overseas tour for some sort of commitment for a movie or a TV show, and I thought he was going to make an appearance on Raw I think it was in like Bologna, Italy or something. And he was, I think, in like France. I don't know. I don't remember. And I just thought, well, this would be a good time for him to interject and, I don't know, maybe announce he's going to be in Cena's corner. Or maybe he's going to make himself the guest referee or a special enforcer of some kind. I honestly, that's what I was kind of hoping. And so the follow-up, the stuff he did with the kid when he put the kid down, like that was pretty harsh. I liked it. But he kept coming out every week wearing the same, the same John Cena hero clothing. And then he even used the audience as his reason why he's not going to change. And he's going to be who he is, whether they like it or not. This time he's firing back. So he's going to keep wearing the hat. And he's going to keep wearing the jean shorts. He's going to keep wearing the T-shirt and the wristbands. And I'm like, okay, all right, I can kind of accept that. This is his bread and butter. This is what he made his money off of. So, okay. But I really felt that in order to get me to believe a little more regarding this turn, that I felt like he needed to change his look up. Like I was picturing like, he's going into Hollywood. He's been making movies, TV shows, commercials, that like he was going to adopt a little bit more of a smoother look. Not so blue collar with the T-shirt and the jeans, Maybe he'll go back to, short trunks and boots. Change his look up a little bit. And we didn't get that. Now, I was disappointed. Not overly disappointed, but I was disappointed. And then we get to WrestleMania. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to wait for The Rock to appear at WrestleMania. This is going to be like a last-minute kind of thing. And the first sign that I knew that match wasn't going to be that good was when the audience started booing Cody. And I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, this audience, they're so fickle. Like this fan base, they just can't. I don't know. It's just. I was like, you got this hero that you've been getting behind, and you finally have Cena in this position that you've wanted him in for so long. You've wanted to boo him, and now it's cool for you to cheer him when he's playing the bad guy. I was just like, this is the audience just fucking with us and fucking with them. And then they boo Cody during his entrance, and it was just like, this isn't good. This reminded me a lot of Cena and Miz from WrestleMania 27. That was like the first sign where I was like, oh man, I don't think this is going to go very well. And then I held out hope that The Rock was going to make an appearance when Travis Scott interjected. And I like a lot of people, I didn't care for it. I think it was stupid. I get it. He's a popular recording artist. And I said this on the Emergency podcast. He kind of brought like a Dennis Rodman kind of vibe to him. Very controversial. But he's a musician. And I thought like that connection was going to kind of help Cena. It just didn't come off good. It really didn't. And then he wins and the place goes nuts. And all right, he gets 17. He breaks the record. That's cool. I didn't really have a problem with him breaking the record. I just didn't like in the manner that it was done. And then with no involvement of The Rock, that really left a sour taste in my mouth. And then The Rock goes on Pat McAfee and is like, well, I didn't want to, take away from John's moment. This is his final year. And, my role wasn't needed. And I'm not saying that his role was needed, but there was no explanation behind Cena and Rock's alliance. Not once on TV. The Rock wasn't even mentioned. The only time Rock was mentioned was when Punk dropped that impromptu pipe bomb a couple nights after Chamber, and called The Rock a bald fraud, and then kind of targeted Cena and said, I'm going to get you at some point for what you did. And that was the only time he was mentioned. And I thought, wow, they really I hate to use this term, but I'm going to use it anyway. They screwed the pooch. It just didn't. It left a bad taste in my mouth. And I thought the match wasn't that good either. Physically, I just thought it didn't sit with me. It really didn't. I thought if they added a stipulation to it, some kind of no disqualification stipulation or something, there might have been some juice behind it, but it didn't do it for me. It just really didn't. I was not impressed. And that's what I did not like about the John Cena heel turn. Okay? And it's like a roller coaster when it comes to his run. And I'm going to continue on with the Randy Orton rivalry at Backlash. I thought it had to be done. It's a retirement tour. It's probably one of his biggest rivals, easily on his Mount Rushmore. And Orton's the good guy. He's super popular. Cena's the bad guy. And they had a pretty good match at Backlash. Didn't set the world on fire, but you could start to see the audience reaction of, and this is my opinion. I don't think that this was orchestrated this way, but this is my opinion after watching that match with him and Orton at Backlash, was that I think the audience started to, after the Travis Scott thing, Rock not getting involved, there was no real good follow-up regarding the heel turn, that they were rebelling and starting to, they were starting to not accept John Cena as a bad guy, and they wanted to cheer him. If you remember the closing, the end of that match, Cena leaves, and he's kind of slow walking out of the ring, and the audience is starting to give him an applause. And you could kind of see the look on his face, like he was kind of embracing it. He was trying to process it. And I thought in that moment, I'm like, all right, this is their time to get back. They're going to build him back to being a good guy before this tour ends. Okay? And this is the first step. The audience acknowledging him and cheering for him. And then you could see the look on his face when he realized that the audience was giving him, his seal of approval, and he just kind of shrugs it off and just walks away. Excuse me. And yeah, I was at that point. I just said to myself, I was like, all right, this is the first step in getting him back. And then we move on to Money in the Bank. They had tagged him with Logan Paul against Jey Uso and Cody. And I thought it was an interesting pairing with him and Logan. Logan's easily hateable. And I thought, okay, this would be good if they want to keep Cena on this heel direction. Pairing him with Logan, big, social media megastar. It will kind of help his stock. And then maybe Logan will, kind of be, him and Cena together aligned under the umbrella of The Rock, and Rock building this conglomerate of social media Hollywood megastars that are his WWE stars, the souls that he wants. I thought that would have been another good way to reintroduce The Rock. We didn't get that. But you saw the audience more and more kind of embrace Cena. And by embracing him, this was another step to getting him to the babyface turn. Which brings us to Night of Champions. Cody wins the King of the Ring tournament. Now, mind you, Cody had pinned Cena, which I thought was natural progression. Got to get his lick back. A little help from R-Truth. And I'll get into the R-Truth stuff in a minute. Actually, you know what? Let me pause. Let me go back to the R-Truth stuff, okay? I thought it was kind of strange he got let go. But I think that I could be wrong, but I think it wouldn't surprise me if Cena lobbied, and I don't know this personally, but it wouldn't surprise me if behind the scenes Cena lobbied to keep his job. Because Truth was so popular and the stuff he was doing with Cena wasn't bad. It was like a stopgap, if you will, a TV feud. And when he got let go, it was a big shock. And then when he came back, it was a big shock. And then Cody ends up getting the pinfall. And Cena's irate. And in that time frame, too, Cena was kind of at odds with his partner, Logan Paul. And at one point, they had like a little stare down. And you can kind of tell that the audience was behind Cena during that. So, like, the downfall of John Cena as a bad guy is continuing. I don't think they orchestrated it this way, but I think the circumstances set it up, and then the WWE just kind of capitalized on it, and they ran with it. Which brings us to Night of Champions, CM Punk. I thought the Punk stuff was really good. When Cena did the callback to the pipe bomb, he sat in the corner after he AA'd Punk through the table, and he dropped, Nick Nemeth and Matt Cardona's names, who were formerly Dolph Ziggler and Zack Ryder. And Punk was trying to beat the good back into John Cena. And there's stuff about this that was good, and there was other stuff that I thought that they would have really leaned into for this, and they didn't. Punk and Cena have a history. Money in the Bank, Chicago. Cena was the champ. Punk defeated him. Punk said he was taking the title and leaving the WWE with it. Okay? They turned that into a story. There were some of those circumstances where real life behind the scenes, they made that into a storyline. I thought with Cena's I'm here to ruin wrestling narrative, which I thought was excellent. I thought he should have been the champ as the bad guy the whole way. Try to ruin wrestling on the way out the door. And I thought that they were going to lean into that more with Cena declaring that he's going to leave with the title. He's going to be the last real champion. He's going to leave this business. They're going to have to create a new champion. And I thought, now the shoe's on the other foot, and Punk can stop him. And they didn't really lean into that. They leaned into more Punk trying to, like I said, beat the good back into John Cena. Which wasn't a bad direction either. But I just thought there was a lot left on the table. But again, he was only given 36 dates. Short period of time. And you had to make do with what you had. Which brings me to SummerSlam. Okay, I was in attendance at SummerSlam. He wrestles Cody for the championship, and the build-up to SummerSlam with him and Cody, I thought it was weak, and especially when Cena just kind of, threw his hands up and gave himself up to Cody and apologized for what he did, and he didn't name The Rock in name, but he had said, I aligned with someone. I thought that I was going to. Basically, he thought he was going to get ahead by aligning with The Rock, but he didn't say The Rock's name. And it was just kind of thrown together. The match that they had was awesome. One of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen in person with him and Cody. The stipulation and no disqualification. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I just thought the build-up to get there, they realized, all right, this bad guy thing is not working. Let's redirect and get this thing going for so that he can exit out the door to the John Cena, as the John Cena we all know and love. Following that match, Cody wins. Cena, has the curtain call. I was sitting in the section with a group of people, and we were all like, oh, this has got to be the cue where The Rock shows up. And The Rock's like, no, The Rock's like, no, you're not done. I still have your soul. And we get Brock Lesnar instead, which was huge. Place went crazy. And at that point, I thought, you know what? What if Brock retired Cena? What if Brock was the one to just end his career? Can they hold that off for 3-4 months? And it would be Brock and Cena at Saturday night's main event. Well, they didn't wait long for that. But before they got to WrestlePalooza, they paired him up with Logan Paul, and I thought it was a good pairing. They had kind of tried to make you forget that Cena was a bad guy and that Cena was back to being, the guy, everyone knew and loved. And they put him up with a guy like Logan Paul, who's easily hateable, very athletically gifted, probably the quickest. He's taken to the business quicker than just about anybody. I'd put him in that rarefied air with Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle as like two guys who like took to the business like that. That it was natural for them. I think that Logan Paul's in that category. And I was actually hoping for a John Cena Logan Paul match if they weren't putting Cena in the title picture at WrestleMania. But we got it at Clash in Paris. And I must say, it was like the next step to kind of rebuilding Cena back up as we get towards the end of this retirement run. People will question Cena's heel work and was he meant to be as bad as he was? I think that there's some truth to that. I think his work in the ring was meant for people to be upset. He wasn't doing all the greatest hits. He was raking the eyes and double axe handles and, very like old style heel, psychology. And I think there's some truth that he meant to do it that way. But at the same time, the audience didn't want to see that with him. They did not. If in my opinion, I think the audience would have reacted differently if Cena had a completely different look cosmetically and there was a better follow-up with the association with The Rock. I think people would have, but I think people were soured on it, especially after the WrestleMania finish with Travis Scott. So now we fast forward to the end of summer, and it's, he has that classic with Cody at SummerSlam. Brock confronts him at the end of SummerSlam, F5s him. We kind of know where they're going there. But before we get to that, we get back to Logan Paul, who had an excellent match with John Cena. Another match on this tour where it's like you saw the John Cena of old, like Big Match John, as JBL used to call him on commentary. And he didn't disappoint. My wife and I went on a cruise that week, and we were flying back from Fort Lauderdale, and I bought the Wi-Fi on the plane so I could watch the Clash in Paris show, and I got to watch that match with him and Logan Paul and John Cena, and it was an excellent match. My opinion, Logan Paul's best match in WWE at that point, and John Cena's probably his best match of the tour. I would dare say that might have been better than the match with Cody. I mean, that Cody match was great too. The second one, SummerSlam. I'm not talking about WrestleMania. But Cena seemed to top himself as the months went on towards the end. And then we get to the Brock Lesnar match. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that have their feelings about Brock and his return and him coming back under the circumstances because he was named in a lawsuit, a sexual assault, sex trafficking lawsuit with Vince McMahon. And none of us are fucking attorneys. None of us are legal professionals. We're just a bunch of wrestling fans talking shit. And so I'm not going to get into that. But I will say that Cena Lesnar, I was okay with Cena losing that match. I mean, if he won, I wouldn't have been upset. But I was okay with him losing that match because to me, I looked at it like this is the one guy Cena can't really conquer. He can't overcome this. And it was I wouldn't say it was uncomfortable to watch, but I think the intention was to try to recreate what took place at that SummerSlam in 2014 when Brock suplexed him 86 times and Cena had 1 minute and 28 seconds of offense in the match for Brock to pretty much rout him and win the title. I think they were trying to recreate that, which I wasn't against. And I think the presentation of it was well done with Cena bringing out the kids, and then they cut to the audience. You see kids crying. I mean, I find it hard to believe that Brock Lesnar was going to lose his first match back, but if there's anyone he could have lost it to or it wouldn't have done anything to him, it was John Cena. But I was okay with the way that finish went down. I was kind of hoping there would be a rematch or Cena would kind of get his comeuppance, maybe some involvement with Brock at Survivor Series and War Games, and I'll get to that shortly. But I didn't have a problem with the way Brock had kind of manhandled Cena. A lot of people thought this is a waste on the retirement tour, but I mean Brock and Cena have had some classics. Their match at Extreme Rules in 2012 was awesome. It's funny. I was actually in attendance the night after WrestleMania 28 when Brock returned after an 8-year absence. He did UFC, did football. He came back the night after WrestleMania 28 after Cena lost to The Rock. And then they had that awesome match at Extreme Rules a month later. I was in attendance at that Raw, and I couldn't hear myself think. That's how loud it was when he returned. And then, ironically enough, Brock returns during this John Cena retirement tour at SummerSlam Sunday, night 2, after Cena loses the title to Cody Rhodes. I was there for that as well. So it's kind of funny that, ironically enough, I was in attendance for 2 of Brock's biggest returns in history, and they both were to target John Cena. So nice little footnote there. Yeah, Cena, Brock, didn't have an issue with it. Now, at this point, there was only about five dates left. There's Crown Jewel in Perth, Australia. There was 2 episodes of Monday Night Raw, both hailing from TD Garden in Boston, Madison Square Garden. Then you had Survivor Series, and then, of course, the Saturday night's main event that's coming up. So you had 5 dates left after that WrestlePalooza match with Cena and Brock. And I figured maybe they'll give Australia a rematch with Cena and Brock. Or maybe they'll have some involvement in War Games. And the one thing I did not like about Cena and Brock was how it really wasn't addressed after the fact. Again, no follow-up. Nothing from Cena. I would have been okay with maybe a message on social media that, like, I tried my hardest, but, I can't overcome the beast. Brock is an impressive specimen and, my one of my toughest challengers of my career. Something like that. We didn't get anything. Brock didn't give anything. Cena didn't give anything. So I thought, that's a little disappointing. Brock pretty much routed him yet again, and there was nothing from Cena. But I think the audience forced the company's hand to put Cena with AJ Styles and at Crown Jewel. And I think because of the negative backlash that the WrestlePalooza finish illustrated, they wanted to make good. And that was a classic. Cena and Styles, great chemistry. Not a bad match between either of them. SummerSlam 2016, Royal Rumble 2017. Their first match, I believe, was at Money in the Bank in 2016 as well. And then this match. I mean, the callbacks. There were times where it was a little, over the top. But there were other times where I was like, man, this is pretty freaking cool. The Sister Abigail with the Fireflies and, the intro that Cena had set up for AJ. A lot of fun stuff. It was a really fun match to watch, and I bring that up because fun is one of those words that comes to mind when I think of this retirement run. And this was a fun match, and Cena looked like he was having fun, and so did AJ. And I'm glad that they had this match. I'm glad that it got the time it got, and because originally Styles wasn't even pegged to be on the list. Cena, he had even suggested that some of the things he was doing to pay tribute to some of his rivals, like an RKO or a Spear to Edge or the Styles Clash, it was because he wasn't going to be able to have many more opportunities with these guys, or any at all, because of the dates. And so the opportunity was there for him to pay tribute to them, which I thought was a nice little tip of the cap. But he got to do it with Styles. The audience wanted it. They listened, and they gave us a barn burner. One thing that I liked about this retirement tour was that there were certain things on Cena's list that, like, they checked off that either he hadn't done before or they called back to. Like, they called back to Randy Orton, AJ Styles, the United States Championship match with Sami Zayn on SmackDown, and kind of handing over the open challenge concept that he created. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was really cool. And Sami had pretty much called out Cena and said, "I want you. I'm throwing out the challenge. I want to defend the title against you. You helped set the standard for the United States Championship in the Open Challenge. I want to christen that." And I like that they've continued that. Sammy had a run for over 100 days with that championship and had some really fun matches with like Rey Fenix, and then eventually losing the title to Ilya Dragunov, who's continued to adopt the concept of the Open Challenge. I thought that was a pretty neat little way for Cena to give back and for the company to establish some importance to that championship that had been lost for quite some time. So I like that there was some callbacks with Cena and some of this stuff in his career during this retirement tour. And then there was stuff that he never did before, like, as we get into it now, Dominic Mysterio. Intercontinental champion. Cena had never worn the Intercontinental title, and Cena and Dom hooking it up in Boston, Cena winning the title, feel-good moment, the rematch at Survivor Series, some really fun stuff, Liv getting involved in her, a callback to his, heel turn with the facial expression and how she did it better than him. I thought that was pretty cool. I was hoping for a little bit more time with Cena and Dom. I was actually hoping for the crowd dynamic to be, let's go Cena sucks, because we were in Dom's hometown. But Cena was so over and so popular that Dom still got drowned out with boos during the match with Cena. I will say that despite the fact that I liked Cena and Dom together at Survivor Series, I was kind of hoping that Cena was going to make a cameo in the War Games match and maybe kind of get his lick back with Brock. Maybe an AA through the table, or, he's a surprise entrant in the War Games match. Somebody on the babyface side is hurt, and Cena comes in, and he has the showdown with Brock, and you get one more little face-off with Cody, one more little glare with Punk, one more little nod of approval from, Roman. Maybe even him mixing up with like a Braun Breaker and a Drew McIntyre. And we didn't get that. But I was okay with the stuff with Dom. Which leads me to, what my wish list was for this retirement tour. And what we got and what we didn't get. What we got was something very unique that I expected. Him saying goodbye for 36 dates over the course of a year. Pretty cool. What I was hoping for was some more in-ring stuff. Even if it was like tag matches. Okay? Even if he was involved in like tag matches on Raw or SmackDown. I mean, he had one on SmackDown with Cody against Drew and Logan Paul. I was kind of hoping that would lead to maybe a Cena-Drew rivalry, but we didn't get that. I was kind of hoping maybe we would see Cena and Miz lock it up at some point, or even like Cena and Sheamus. We didn't get that. And, I get it. I understand. He had 36 dates. They're trying to, use those dates to the fullest potential and, try to deliver the greatest hits. But at the same time, they were trying to establish other people by pairing them with him, with like a Logan Paul or, a Dominic Mysterio. I get it. Selfishly, Cena said on the Bill Simmons podcast that he pitched 220 dates. He was going to clear his schedule for the company. And they said, we only need you for 36. Selfishly, I would have loved the 220 dates. He could have worked with everybody. But could his body have handled that? That's the question. I really don't know. Now let's get to the main attraction here. What's coming up this weekend? The big finale against Gunther, Saturday night's main event. I thought that maybe they would have set something up with Cena and Gunther. Maybe Gunther would have been involved in War Games, or maybe Gunther would have called out Cena, or maybe Cena would have called out Gunther. I don't mind the idea of the tournament where Cena wanted somebody to earn the opportunity to face him in the last match, but it didn't hit for me. Okay? There were some fun parts of the tournament. with, a Dolph Ziggler return, Zack Ryder returned. Gunther had some pretty impressive showings against Javon Evans, Carmelo Hayes, even Solo. The match with LA Knight, all his matches in the tournament, it looked like they were positioning Gunther to be the guy. And I'm okay with that. Okay? I don't have a problem with that because I think they match up very well, Gunther and Cena. But I think that there still could have been some meat on the bone, just a little bit, to get them to this match. I don't think a tournament was necessary, but at the same time, they were trying to take some of the guys that they probably wanted to pair with Cena and put them in the tournament and associate them with this tournament. Sheamus, Miz, Jey Uso. I think the intention was there, but the circumstances and the dates just it didn't work out. But yeah, Gunther going through the tournament, reaching the finals, beating LA Knight, and now he's tasked to compete in the final match of John Cena's career. Cena, advertising this as Cena's final match is just big enough as it is. So I guess you really don't need a whole lot of meat on the bone when it comes to Gunther's involvement. But I did like his promo Monday night, pretty much, emphasizing that he's going to make John Cena give up. John Cena has never given up, or John Cena has rarely given up. But he's going to be the one to make John Cena give up one final time. And that's a very simple and effective, to the point promo from Gunther that really kind of tells you the story. That Gunther he's taking this very seriously. And he's going to be the one that's responsible for Cena riding off into the sunset. Now, what I do like about this being... Now, a lot of people are like, oh, why wasn't this at a WrestleMania? Why wasn't this at a SummerSlam? Why wouldn't they do this on a bigger event? And, I think Cena's last match is a big event as it is. Saturday night's main event. I get the reason behind it. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on it regardless. I'll say that. But putting this match on this card kind of helps beef up Saturday night's main event. And what I also like about this, you could have done the easy route and done like a 2-hour John Cena tribute show, had some matches on the undercard that, were storyline driven, and go from there. But, John Cena had made it public that he pitched the idea to management to involve NXT guys because he wants to pass the torch to them. He wants them to shine on his biggest night, the last match of his career, and he shows how unselfish he is by wanting NXT talent to be involved. Cody Rhodes going to take on Obafemi, the NXT champion. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. I think we might see... I'll give you a prediction. I think we might see Obafemi win and beat Cody Rhodes. I really do. I'm smelling Kevin Owens Elimination Chamber 2015 vibes when he beat Cena as the NXT champion. I think he's going to do that to Cody. Okay? Car crash of a match. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee defending the World Tag Team Championship against Javon Evans and Leon Slater, who is the TNA X Division champion. I think that's pretty cool. Should be a lot of fun. Sol Ruca and Bayley. And I don't know a whole lot about Sol Ruca, but I've seen some stuff, and she looks like she's gonna show out against someone like Bayley. And then the fourth match on that card, we've got who do we got? We got tag team 2, 3. Oh yeah, no, Cena, and then of course you got Cena and Gunther. But I like the idea that Cena has kind of taken. He's going to take NXT under his wing, so to speak, and let them get some shine on his final night and pass the torch and really kind of give them the exposure and let them be a part of it as well. I think that's pretty cool, and that's very unselfish of him. Now, let's talk about the match with Gunther, okay? A lot of people are like, well, Cena should win. It's his last match. Let the hero, walk out and get the victory. I wouldn't be against Cena winning, okay? But I think based on Cena's attitude with the involvement of NXT, his idea of pitching them to be a part of the show, and how, he wants to help position them as the future, I think, and Cena has said publicly throughout this retirement tour, I just play the cards that are dealt. I just play the hand that they deal me. I don't pick my opponents. I think this might be the exception to the rule. I think Cena might push the issue that Gunther goes over. And I honestly think Gunther should make him tap. I think it would be a feather in the cap of Gunther to say that he made John Cena give up on his last match. Okay? And I think that could ride Gunther off into a different stratosphere moving forward heading into 2026, whether that's, him targeting, established names. AJ Styles rumored to be retiring in the next year, or maybe somebody like a Randy Orton, or even a Punk again. He's got some unfinished business with Punk after losing the title. Or he just goes after the championship. I think there's some meat on the bone for Gunther to continue this retirement kind of streak of sorts. He beat Goldberg in his last match and kept the World Heavyweight Championship. He retires John Cena. Let him move on to somebody else. Maybe, Cena said on the Chris Van Vliet podcast earlier this week that Brock beating him at WrestlePalooza was positioned to establish Brock as a big draw because he thinks that Brock's sunset is going to end in Minnesota. And SummerSlam emanates from Minneapolis next year. And that could be a good opportunity for Gunther to continue this retiring streak. And him and Brock Lesnar, they have that big anticipated dream match that people have been talking about for the last few years. And he beats Brock in his hometown. The writing is there. It's just a matter of whether they want to do it or not. But I think, if I'm going to go with a prediction, I think Gunther goes over on John Cena. And I think Gunther makes him tap out. And I think what would be kind of cool is if the roster comes out, they thank Cena, they let Cena, have his moment on the mic, thanking the audience. They give him the opportunity for the curtain call. Hell, maybe they even announce Cena as the next inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame next year in Vegas, joining Stephanie McMahon. I could see that. Cena revealed on the Tom Rinaldi interview on YouTube earlier this week that he had signed a 5-year ambassador deal with WWE, and that he will be helping promote the brand and promote the company moving forward. I can see that from him. He's got a very public relations type of personality when he does these interviews. And so that's been made official. So I could see, a Hall of Fame induction. I could possibly see John Cena even playing a non-wrestling role character from time to time, whether that's a special guest referee or whether, here's an idea. And a lot of people are wishful thinking with this one, hoping that The Rock returns at the end of Saturday night's main event, and he says, "Nope, I'm not done with you yet, John. I got your soul. You're not done until I say you're done." And then they set up him and Cena in Vegas at WrestleMania. I don't think that's going to happen. Would I be against it? No. Because I didn't pay the $40,000 to see his final match in Washington, D.C. I'm just going to be watching it at home. So I wouldn't be against it if The Rock were to come out and they kind of tie that loose end up with that, their alignment earlier this year. Which, by the way, Cena has been asked that question on numerous platforms in the last week or so, and he's downright refusing to talk about it. He did tell Tom Rinaldi on YouTube that he would sit down with him and talk to him about that and, the Travis Scott thing when the off season's over, during the off season, but not in the middle of the season, as he liked to put it. So I think we'll get that story at some point from him, or his version of it, I should say. But yeah, a Rock appearance, I don't think it's likely, but I'm not ruling it out either. Okay? I'm not ruling it out. I'm not hoping for it, but I'm not ruling it out. I just don't think it's likely. I could see that the idea of maybe, with The Rock being on the TKO board, and he's the boss, and then you have, the other television authority figures like Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, Triple H, the chief content officer. They've, used him from time to time. I could see John Cena adopting a role as a member of the TKO board, and he's kind of the opposite of what the final boss is. So he's like the good guy on the board, and Rock is the bad guy. And when they, maybe have their little, verbal joust in the ring, or, Cena, makes an appearance when it's called for to make a major announcement for a match or a stipulation for a match, or, to have some sort of significant impact on the show itself. I could see something like that where he's suit and tie, he's on the board, he makes his decision, so-and-so faces so-and-so for the championship, blah, 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 whatever. So that's kind of where I see the future of John Cena. To sum this all up, this Cena retirement tour has been a roller coaster of ups and downs. And I haven't put too much stock into the creative aspect of it. I shared with you how I felt about some things that took place, but for the most part, I had fun watching it. And I hope to have fun Saturday night watching his final match with Gunther. And I hope that it lives up to the hype of what his last match was supposed to be. So with that being said, thank you all so very much for pressing play, hitting download, liking, subscribing, rating, and reviewing this podcast. Had a lot of fun doing it. By the way, I know that originally I was set to... the original plans were, as voted by all of you in the polls, that it was going to be a John Cena or RVD watch-along from One Night Stand 2006. It was all voted by you guys on social media, and I'm going to honor that at some point, but I thought it would be fitting during this time period right now to share with you my thoughts on the retirement tour and preview the match with Gunther this coming weekend. So at a later date, at some point, depending on where the WWE's archived library goes, the rumor is that it's going to be slowly rolled out on YouTube because it's leaving Peacock by the end of the month. Depending on where that library goes, I will try to fulfill my promise as voted by all of you for John Cena RVD for ECW One Night Stand 2006, a special watch along. So, yeah, don't worry. I didn't forget about that. But, yeah, that about does it. Thank you all. And thank you, John Cena. And with that being said, it's time that we put this one officially down for the 3 count. And we will see you all next time.